Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amour de Soi Wellness, and Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Happy Talks. I'm super excited to introduce our guests today. We have Lavigne, who is the founder of the Happiness Sprinkling Project, as well as the director for the Center for Happiness, two organizations that share the common mission of providing joy, growth, connection, and kindness to the world community. I love that. She is also a TEDx speaker, the author of several books, a happiness coach, and founding member of the International Association of Coaches. She lives on a small island in the Pacific Northwest and loves to take people on the life-changing happiness retreats all around the world. Please welcome Laura. Thanks for being on our show today.
Thanks for having me.
Great, wonderful. So yes, Laura, would you like to just maybe share, how did you get into the realm of happiness? I'm curious, what was that journey for you?
Well, I became a life coach in 2003, sort of, by accident a little bit.
Oh.
And I built my career. And in 2011, I had a personal crisis. I had a feeling of my kids were growing up and I just felt disconnected. And I wanted to create a physical place where people could gather, because a lot of my clients were all over the country and I didn't know them. So I found this place. I wish I could show you. I could move my computer around and show you.
You can if you want.
There's this building on the island where I live that's really beautiful and really old. And at the top of it is a ballroom, a 100-year-old ballroom.
Ooh.
And I had always looked at it was like having the Taj Mahal. I never dreamt that I could go in it, let alone get the keys to it. But I got the keys to it. And I painted it yellow. It has a yellow ceiling. The walls are yellow. It gets pretty gray where we live. And I wanted to feel like the sunshine. And I didn't really have an idea what we were going to do, but I knew I do a lot of that. I just kind of get guided. And then in the rearview mirror, it makes sense. So I opened this place. And at first I was going to call it what was I going to call it? The Anacortes Wellness Center. And somebody, and it was fine, it seemed like it was fine. And a friend said, if you could call it anything, if you could have any center, what would you call it? And it was late at night and my left brain wasn't quite engaged. And I said, I think I'd call it a Center for Happiness. And he said, that's what you're opening. Open the Center for Happiness. I thought, well, that's silly. Nobody has a Center for Happiness. He said, I think you do. So I opened the Center for Happiness. And it's been a place of connection, a place of joy, a place of meetings, a place of grieving also, a place of, it's been just amazing. And a year later, I created the Happiness Sprinkling Project, which now has been all over the world. So there's been a lot of things that have stemmed. This place is like an incubator. It's really magic. I mean, I wish you were here with me. It's really, really special. And from here, we create, and I've created several global movements. I'm working on a new one right now. And this is where I write and see clients when they're locals. And also people come and we have meditation and women's groups and disco dances and movie nights and potlucks, whatever. So it changed I changed my work from being a life coach to being a happiness coach. And it just kind of happened organically.
Wow, what an incredible story, and how it evolved into just a happiness center. That's incredible. Great. Can you tell me a little about the Happiness Sprinkling Project? What is that?
The Happiness Sprinkling Project started 2012. So that's 8 years ago. The center, 9 years, Happiness Sprinkling Project, 8 years. It was an election year. And a friend sent me on Facebook pictures of people wearing orange jumpsuits. They kind of looked like up-purposed prison jumpsuits maybe. And they had signs that say, it's going to be awesome, just all these happy signs. And she said, I think we should do that. And I thought, yeah, that sounds good. On the island where we live, there is a corner that's very heated politically. You have two different parties on each side holding signs, and it's a little island, but it's just kind of it has a lot of energy. And I said, yeah, let's do that. And let's stand on that corner. And so on Facebook, I asked people, if you could hold a sign that said anything at all, what would you like it to say? And people started to write. And I thought, okay, we're going to do this. So I copied and pasted all these answers, sent them to a friend of mine who's a printer, and asked him if he would print the signs for us. That he would. And then I wanted to unite us so we would look somewhat, I'm an artist, I paint, so I have a kind of always thinking about visual eyes. And I thought we were all going to wear yellow just to unite us. And I said, all right, May 23rd, let's meet on the corner. I'll have the signs printed. You guys can pick your signs. We'll stand at the street corner and hold the signs. So everybody showed up wearing yellow, grabbed the signs, and we stood on the street corner and held the signs. And they said, it's going to be all right, misspelled. You're wonderful. Just these wonderful signs. And we did it for an hour, and it was just such a high. People were honking. It was just really fun. And then we packed up the signs, and everybody left, and I put the signs in my garage, and they stayed there the whole summer. I can still see them sitting there. So she invited me to this event called National Parking Day, I think. And the idea was that you go to the city, you put a bunch of quarters in the meter, and then you own this parking for the day, where the car would be. So we got 2 parkings, and we set up, we get peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We played Battleship. And I had brought the signs. I thought we can decorate the parking space with the signs. So we did that. And at the end, it was 5 o'clock. I told them, why don't we try this thing that I did on the island and hold the sign? It's rush hour in Seattle. It's going to be really fun. So 5 signs, 5 people. And people went crazy, and they were honking, and the buses were waving. And a lady came and said, can I hold your sign? And she took my sign that said, it's going to be okay. Held that sign and wept.
Wow.
I thought, what is going on here? What is going on? These are just signs. And I went home that night, and I thought, this is asking for me to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that next day, I set up a website, I set up a system. And so the way it's been working ever since is we have happiness ambassadors. So for instance, you want to be a happiness ambassador, and you say, you contact us, you fill out the form. A set of signs shows up, sent by another ambassadors to you, 23 signs. Your team, everybody wears yellow. There's no advertising, nothing. And everybody stands on the street corner holding signs for 1 hour. You pack the signs and you send them to the next ambassador. And then along, people come and they say, what are you doing? Are you with a church? Are you selling something? And so we give them little cards. We have little miniature cards made of the signs. Back, there's our URL. And that's what keeps the project going.
Wow, that is so inspiring and incredible. I love that idea of just like spreading happiness in just random locations on whoever wants to be an ambassador.
It's been so many places. So it was kind of just something that happened,
Oh, that's a beautiful story on how that grew to just have it all over the world. And, it's just really what the world needs is, with so much sadness and the struggles that we're all dealing with, especially right now, it's so needed to have more avenues of just happiness, essentially. Yeah.
Right now we pause it because people can't gather, but we have a lot of other ways to do this. I wrote a little book, a little kid's book, has this little pictures in it, and we have a lot of different ways. There's a lot of these cards, and they're circulating, and now it's different. So it's been a matter of shifting a little bit, but it's still the same thing, bringing joy to people and also empowering them. For me, building community is really important. Empowering people to be leaders. So, the happiness ambassadors, they've been on TV, they've been on the news, and they own this. They have a strong sense of ownership over the project, which I love to do. I love to create things and then pass them on.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Great.
Yeah, it seems like there's a gap for a lot of people in terms of being able to find a strong sense of community. Not everyone, but many, many people. And it sounds like the projects that you've put together really capitalize on that piece. And, this happiness sprinkling project, for example, it's a community that's so easy, or at least it seems like it would be so easy to get into, right? You see people having a good time,
Absolutely.
generally happy. And like joining in there, like the way you described it is people are almost skeptical because they believe there's some sort of like, okay, but what's the catch?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really cool. I would be curious to know if that's a primary focus for most of your projects. Is that something that when you're creating a new project, you come with top of mind, or does that just tend to happen?
I've been doing this stuff long enough now that I can look back and go, oh yeah, this is something that happens with just about everything I do, but I never really start thinking that way. So the Center for Happiness, like I said, I didn't really know what it was going to be, but it became this community thing. So to me, I think of it as joy-based leadership. So I think it's something that really lights me up. I decide what the essences of that project are going to be, and I can talk more about essences. So not the form. The form is, you're going to hold the sign this way or this way or this way. No, the essence is joy and community and empowerment. So I pass those essences on to the people who are going to come in, and then I get out of the way so that their true self can really show up and really create whatever they're going to create out of it. And that seems to me that it attracts community. And it's a byproduct, but it's a byproduct that's become so consistent that I have to look at it a little bit more closely and think there's a replication that happens in what I create. Like I created a group called the 90-Day Gratitude Attitude Challenge on Facebook. And it was supposed to be just 90 days of go online and say what you're grateful for that day. I kind of gave the feeling, the essence was gratitude. I invited 6-7 friends, then they invited more friends, and it's been going for 8 years.
Wow.
And it's the same thing. People are meeting each other offline, and there's all this stuff. So I think there's a formula, but I'm only discovering the formula by looking back and seeing, how did that happen? It didn't start by, hey, we're going to do this and let's go through the steps. So I think there is a way of being that fosters the ripening of that formula. And I think a lot of it has to do with a blend of leadership, but not necessarily ownership.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me in terms of the way I kind of break down the exact same thing is between strategy and tactics. And it seems like you've created, some strategies for doing different things, and then you let people kind of customize it to their own way. And I think, just guessing, that's probably a lot of what's made it successful is that the strategy or the essence is really well targeted. It's in a place that people need, but not so specific, in the form that a lot of people get left out. Because in my own happiness journey, that's been a problem that I've run into where, I'm getting this information and I'm trying it, but it's so specific, right? Wake up at 6 a.m. No, that's not the piece that I need. But a structured daily routine, for example, the strategy, the higher level piece makes sense. So I think, again, just kind of guessing, I would guess that's kind of what you tapped into.
Yes, you totally got it. And that's why I'm so fascinated with the work of essence versus form, because we get them confused. Wake up at 6 a.m. is a form. What is the essence of that? Is it vitality? Is it pleasure? Is it efficacy? What is the essence? Once you tap on that essence, you can flip it. I call it flipping the essence. You flip it into another form. If vitality is what I am after in getting up at 6 a.m., what other form is there? But we pivot around the essence. So I think you totally got it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I was curious, Laura, just to hear I love your take on happiness and the essence of being like the core of the creation of just all sorts of different projects. And I'm curious, what would you suggest or recommend for people on how they can maintain that essence, or how can they maintain their wellness right now, especially given the current global health crisis situation?
So, I've thought a lot about that. A little personal background. I was out of the country when this started.
Oh, okay.
And I came back, and actually came back thinking I was going to turn back around and go back. I was in Mexico. And so it's like I left the country and came back into a different world.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm weeks behind
Mhm.
every, and trying to catch up.
Mhm.
I don't know that I was super graceful about it. I kind of had a bit of a hissy fit. Because, but whatever.
Understandable. Yeah.
But in the process of going through my own trying to catch up, I was able to pay attention. What's going to work here? What's going to work here? And I actually created a little PDF course called 5 Ways to Stay Sane During This Crisis. So if you I just started a new Facebook group called Happy You, and free community where I put a lot of my tools, and it's just brand new. So anybody watching is welcome to join in. It's called Happy You on Facebook, and the tool will be in there. So I've really had to think about that. And what I've come up with the most, a lot of my work has to do with less, the concept of less. So sometimes clients will come to me and they say, I want more money, I want a bigger house, or I want a new relationship, or I want to travel more. There's a lot of more.
Right.
The idea that putting more is going to add. And I will always start with the idea of what can we have less of? I have an online school called Happiness School, and we think of it as a garden. And the garden, we start with weeding. You can't dump a bunch of seeds in something that's already overgrown. So the idea of weeding, make some darn room so we can see what we're going to plant next. So the concept of what's happening right now, what made really strong sense to me from the get-go is, let's be super discerning about what we let in. I arrived and I had so much information coming my way. It was just maddening. There was the news, many different news sources. There was people, everybody wanted to tell me what their opinion was about what was happening. There was my own voices and my own filters. And after the third, fourth day that I was home, I crashed. I came to the ballroom and I laid on the floor and sobbed. And I realized what's happening is I have too much data, too many opinions, just too much.
Yeah.
So the first step to me is, let's talk about just the news, just real quick. Sure. I would suggest 3 things. And again, there's that report that I made, but 3 things for the news. First, decide which news you're going to watch. So there's some news that are very intelligently targeted to up our cortisol. They have red banners. Everything is red because everything is urgent.
Right.
So before we even read anything, we're amped up. And a rise in cortisol is not good for our immune system. And right now we're talking immune system. So first thing, decides which news you're going to watch. And everybody can decide what works for them. For me, I know that something that has a lot of flashing and a lot of red is not going to be my source of information, because it's manipulating me into already being excited from the get-go.
Right.
And I do not have that.
Yeah.
The second thing is, how often do you want to get data? I'm all for data. We need data to know what's up. But how much data do we need? In the early days or first couple weeks, we knew that we had to wash our hands, not touch our face, which for me is really hard. So wash your hands, don't touch your face, social distance, and then you wear a mask. Okay, so we've got these 4 pieces, and then stay home. Okay, let's call it 5 things.
Yeah.
Once you have these 5 things, it's your marching orders. That's what you need to do. You do that, and you incorporate it into your real life. What new call to action are you going to get from knowing more numbers? From, the balance. So decide which news you want to watch. What is going to give you information without manipulating your cortisol level. Decide how often do you want to watch it. Do you want to get on the news at night and in the morning? Twice? Do you want to get on the news once a day, every 2 days, 10 times a day? Make a conscious decision. What's going to work for you? I'm not saying don't watch the news. I'm saying decide with intentionality what you're going to watch and how often you're going to watch it. And then the third piece of that 1 point, there was 5 points, but I'm just going to focus on this one. The third piece was, what are you letting in and what are you putting out? What percentage of what we talk about is centered around this topic? Let's say you and I go and have a cup of tea and we're together for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that hour do we want to talk about the topic? Of course, it's important and it's a point of commonality and we're going to want to talk about it. But are we going to want to talk about it for 60 minutes or 12 minutes?
I hope not 60.
But a lot. And so what to watch, how much to ingest, and how much put out, to me was a really good, it really worked for me. And I shared it with my clients and it really worked for them. And again, if you go to Happy You, there's a whole report there with 5 points. And, you know, like Donovan was saying, tools. I think tools, there is a genetic to happiness. We've all read that and we know that.
Right.
But just one part of it. Tools are so good. And so one of the tools is have less. So that's one of the things that worked for me in this time, is just to be very intentional about what I let in. Because first of all, I need my immune system to stay strong.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And because in the long run, you know, this is no sprint. This is a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
We can't exhaust ourselves in the first 10 minutes or 10 days or even 10 weeks. So there's a lot of intentionality that's being asked of us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. This virus is not going to go away anytime soon. So do we really want to be stressed on high alert for, 3 months, 6 months, a year? Who knows how long, for indefinitely? And I agree, like, we should really be intentional and aware of how much we're consuming, because it does have an impact on our mental and emotional and physical well-being. It just made me think of, I don't know if you saw the new Good News show by John Krasinski. He created it. It's called Some Good News, and it's just a news show just about good news, good positive news. And I was like, this is exactly what we need in the world. It's just something that's not blinking, like, be afraid of death.
Yes.
Everyone's going to die kind of a thing, but just some positive news of how people are being there for each other during this hard time. Yeah.
And there are good news. There are beautiful good news.
Oh, so much. Yes.
That's one of the things that I try to do and have done before this in curating the kind of information that comes in terms of what am I focusing on and what's actionable out of it. Because you can spend all day, every day, forever, crisis or not, just looking at things that are going to make your cortisol rise and make you anxious and make you have a bad, worried life. It's a lot higher now because a lot more people are checking this stuff more often. But as far as what's actionable, like you were saying, there's a couple points. They haven't really changed much. The other information that you're getting, you can probably predict. Like, there's someone in my household that has been very much on the news cycle. And I asked them, like, okay, if you don't watch the news tomorrow, I bet what you're going to see, well, and this was a couple weeks ago, is an increase in cases. You don't need to check the news for that. That's going to happen. That's what you're going to see. I don't know the exact number, but that's what it's going to be. So I think what you touched on and being intentional is really important, because just the defaults, when we just run with our defaults, it's really easy to get caught up in these kind of behaviors that end up using time and attention in a way that just leaves us feeling drained.
And then, Donovan, there's also the piece where we want to have compassion also for ourselves and other, because one thing that's happening is we have this idea that knowledge is control. And right now there's a global sense of being out of control. And that is, I think, falsely mitigated by a sense of control. If I know what's up, if I have knowledge, I'm ahead of the game. I can't be really surprised. I can't be really caught if I know what's up, which is not true, but it's human to think that. So we're also tender and sensitive right now. You don't want to go and say, you fool, don't be watching the news, because it's not compatible. So for me, it always starts with us. What works for me and what makes me be as well as I can be, so that I may do my work, which my work is to kind of help others be the best they can be. So it's a dance, you know. But if I were in a household where the news were on, oh boy, that would be really hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's more about just asking other people, you know, like, is this the way that you want to spend your time, right? Because I was seeing it was causing distress.
Right.
So it was more, it wasn't like, hey, this is a waste of time, this is dumb, why are you doing this? But you have a choice. Is this the way you want to use your time? And I'm a little bit less soft when I'm talking about it as like another event, but face to face, it softens a lot more. It's a lot more gentle.
Mm.
Yeah, it's hard. We're getting to see how we all show up in tough times. We're very exposed as to how we show up when we're vulnerable.
Yeah. What do you suggest for people who are struggling right now? They're stuck in the fear or in that high stress mode.
Well, the first 3 points that address the news. Have some news boundaries.
Boundaries.
You know, news boundaries. Another thing that works for me a lot is something that's Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, started many, many years ago. And it's writing morning pages. So and when I first got back from Mexico, I was doing morning pages, mid-morning pages, lunch pages, afternoon pages, night pages. I was just like walking around with my notebook. So when because what hurts is the thoughts.
Right.
You know, and the thoughts that hurts are usually in the past or in the future. They're fear thoughts about a story that hasn't yet happened. But we're jumping there. We're losing the moment. So there's all these thoughts. And these thoughts are coming at us fast and furious. Well, there's this thing that happens that's very interesting. If I take a pen and a paper and I write down my thoughts more than on the computer. I mean, I write a lot on the computer, but the way Julia Cameron has it set up, she suggests strongly that we write 3 pages every morning. Handwritten.
Okay.
And they are what she calls a brain dump. So you see them, you don't even have to reread them. They don't have to make sense. They can be your grocery list. They can be, oh, I can't believe I have to write 3 pages. I don't want to write 3 pages, you know, whatever. But what happens is that it's like putting a phone call to ourselves early in the morning. We dump our thoughts on the paper. And once thoughts are on the paper, they stop making baby thoughts. They stop multiplying.
Expanding.
They stop expanding. They're like, here's the thought. I am so afraid that I'm going to die. So you wrote that, and somehow it's not so much that you've let go of it. It's more that it's let go of you. Little by little, it's like it opens its jaws and free. It's not instantaneous, but it's definitely a process. It happens. So what I would suggest, if someone is so full of these thoughts of fear, which is so understandable, get a notebook that you love, get one that feels really good in your hand, and put it down, give it to the paper, Because now you've made space. Again, the idea of less as opposed to more. So you've given the paper, let the paper hold it. It will hold it for you.
Yeah. No, I love that idea of journaling and just getting it out, kind of like clearing your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about is, so you've held like a ton of different happiness retreats. And I think that's pretty impressive. And I know like right now you have to put those on hold with the current situation, but tell me a little about how those have gone and what the goal or mission of those retreats are.
Oh, they're wonderful. So the core of the retreat is that I teach people my essential happiness program. So that's the core of it. And I also teach people how to lead joy-based retreats. Oh. So if you want to do that, I have.
Hey, let's collaborate in the future.
Leadership. So it's a combination. I love taking people somewhere beautiful. And And I nurture the heck out of them. So we have people cooking for us, usually local people. We get a home, a beautiful home, and it becomes our home. So it's a community. For a week or 10 days, people become this family. Every other day we have a class. The days in between, we explore or we rest or we create. But really what we're doing is we're digesting the work of the day before. So we have all day of class, and then we have a day where it seems that we're just playing, but that's really when the work gets assimilated and you've got this group of people who are learning the same thing. So it's a very lovely blend of challenging work. I talk about stretching, not tearing. So I will stretch people, but I won't let them tear. Very supported. Accommodations. Usually I love having a water view if we can. Delicious food, a lot of joy. And it's a mix between an adventure and a class, because the course itself is very intense, very dense. And community, and it's just lovely.
That does sound really lovely. Why do you think community is so important for just happiness in general?
Well, and we're seeing right now how this is working out with the social distancing. So the thing, I'm an introvert. I look like an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. I need a whole lot of alone time. And also I need community.
Yeah.
So it's a funny mix. Why I think community is important is because, first of all, from a practical standpoint, I have things to offer that you may not have, and you have things to offer that I may not have. So for instance, I created a page called Anacortes Happy Hour. It's all. And the idea is that we can give each other an hour of our time. So if you take enough people, there will be someone who can bake, someone who can repair computers, somebody who's great in the garden, somebody who loves to stay up at night, somebody who loves to be up in the morning. You're going to have access to so much wonderful skills and abilities, and you don't have to push that hard because there's somebody else doing this with you. So from a practical standpoint, it's very efficient to be a community. And then from an emotional standpoint, there's something about knowing that you can pick up the phone at 2 a.m. and call someone. It changes the way we live when we know that that's possible.
Right.
So there's the emotional standpoint, and then there is the practical way of being. And plus, it's fun.
Yeah, that's true. All of that.
Online community or an in-person community, it's just lovely to be together, even if it's together with your own private space.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So we're nearing the end of our show. Was there anything else that you had a question about, Donovan, or any comments?
Not really. The only thing that I want to make sure that we do this time is anything that you have that you would like to share out to the world. Anything that you want to plug. Now would be a good time to do it.
Yes.
I would say join my brand new Happy You Facebook group community. This is a place where I'm going to be putting a lot of free stuff. I'm going to be on there a lot. So it's a great way to connect. I have Happiness School, which is a paid community, but I am creating right now Happy You, which is a free Facebook online community. So go on there, and then you can pick up that report about living sanely right now.
Is that happy with a U, like the letter U, or YOU?
Yeah.
Letter U? Okay. Just checking. Happy You. Okay, got it.
And then the other thing I would say is pay attention to how you're living right now and what's working. Because I know that we're living a little differently now than we do when everything is bustling. And whatever is working in our lives right now, that might be what we want to reintroduce later. If you're baking bread right now, consider that there's something, whatever the essence of that is for you, That's something you might want to take back with you into the normal world. This is the time for us to get reacquainted with our essences.
Yeah, definitely.
And they are, the closer we live to essence, the more we are likely to contribute to the world in a way that's really powerful. Doing our life's work. And I think this time that's more quieter is pointing us towards who we really are.
I love it. Yeah. Great. Laura, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on our show. And we will have to stay in touch. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the things that you're creating in the world of happiness. And it sounds very magical in a lot of ways.
And the other thing I want to say, gratitude. Right now, gratitude.
Oh, absolutely.
So whether you're doing your own gratitude or you want to join me on my 90-day gratitude attitude challenge, which is not 90 days, but 8 years old, do that. Whatever it's going to take to give you a routine so that you orient towards the good every day.
Wonderful. Great. Great. Well, we'll be sure to have all your links in the description so people can access you and all the many resources that you have.
Great.
So again, thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Donovan.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.